75. Announcement. I wish to announce that Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the School District of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of Chatham Borough and Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, and Star Ledger and TAP. Mr. DeQuilla?
Sure. Ms. Ross?
Here.
Ms. Allen?
Here.
Mr. Del Sandro? Ms. Kenny?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Weber? Dr. Zhang?
Here.
And Ms. Ciccarelli.
Here.
6 present and accounted for.
Perfect. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance if you're able.
And the flag is on
Yes.
my right.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I don't have any initial comments, so I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Ciccarelli. The only item under my section of the agenda is the annual testing report, which is a requirement in the state of New Jersey. And Dr. Donahue is going to give that presentation if we all can proceed to the seats.
Good evening, everyone. This is a required presentation by the New Jersey Department of Education to share the results of the district's state standardized assessments. Tonight, I will be reporting out on 4 standardized assessments: the 2024 New Jersey Student Learning Assessment in English Language Arts, Mathematics, and Science, the Access, which is the Assessing Comprehension in English State to State for English Language Learners, the GEPA, which is the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, and the DLM, or Dynamic Learning Maps. The structure of the NJSLA is such that English Language Arts is administered in grades 3 to 9, Mathematics is administered in grades 3 to 8, and also in the areas of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. And as you will recall from previous years, Science is only administered in grades 5, 8, and 11. We report out on assessments to see how our instruction and programming is aligned to meeting the expectations of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. We gather data across ELA, math, and science to gauge how our students are doing meeting the goals and objectives in each content area. We engage in this process to identify areas of strength as well as areas in which could be improved upon. It is important to note that we do not rely solely on NJSLA, as we know it represents a snapshot of our students' learning, and we rely on formative assessments, summative assessments, performance tasks, and anecdotal records gathered from daily classroom observations, interactions, and discussions. In analyzing the results, we recognize that NJSLA is a single snapshot of a student performance in a controlled environment, and it is one data point in the broader summary of learning. All of these assessments are evaluated comprehensively to see that our programs are meeting the needs of our students while also meeting state standards. And just as a reminder, for ELA and for math, there are 5 performance levels. Level 1 did not yet meet expectations, 2 is partially met, level 3 is approached, level 4 has met the expectations, and 5 has exceeded them. As we dig into the presentation, you will see that Chatham's performance exceeds that of the state in all 3 content areas, ELA, math, and science. With this in mind, there is a broad range of skills assessed with the ELA test. Students are asked to look at literary text, informational text, text that incorporates other content areas such as social studies and science, and related vocabulary. The writing strands assess, they include written expression, as well as knowledge of language and conventions. In writing, it's always worth noting that the process is vastly different from how we teach our students to write. When we write in the classroom, we teach students that writing is a process. We encourage them to engage in brainstorm activities, strategically craft a story, gather evidence to support a point, evaluate what they have written, dig back in for editing, elicit feedback from a teacher or a writing partner to gauge the effectiveness of the piece. However, in this controlled setting, students are told what to write about with time constraints, so it's really not authentic or reflective of the work we do each day. So as you look at this data on this slide, you'll see that we are meeting or exceeding at a noticeable rate as compared to the state. From each column, Chatham's performance is yellow and the state performance is red. If we begin over on the left-hand side, we begin with level 1, which is not meeting expectations. So we want for ourselves to see low numbers in that column, which is what we do indeed see. Our numbers remain low in level 2, which is partially meeting expectations and is much lower than those numbers of the state. As we gradually move across the slide, you'll see as we get to level 4 and 5, that is where we want to see our numbers increase, which indeed does happen. So you can see our level of outperformance for levels 4 and 5, which is meeting and exceeding expectations. If you do a side-by-side comparison for grades 3 to 9, you will see that our performance compared to the state is highlighted on this slide with side-by-side comparisons for each grade level and the percentage of students who met or exceeded expectations. As you can see, our outperformance stretches up to 36% when comparing Chatham's performance to that of the state in English language arts across grades 3 to 9. And when you take the average of all the tested grades in ELA, we outperform the state by roughly 25%. As per the state, we're required to share the assessment data broken down by subgroups. For confidentiality purposes, if there are less than 10 students in any particular subgroup, we do not report out on those results. Moving on to math. In math, the strands assessed include major content, supporting content, and students are asked to demonstrate the ability to reason mathematically and model real-world problem-solving scenarios. Comparable to this slide showing our ELA performance at each level, you will see a similar trend with Chatham showing low percentages of students in the level 1 and level 2 range as compared to the state, and then we see a reverse on the opposite side of the slide with higher percentages for level 4 and level 5. Our performance compared to the state is slightly easier to see on this slide, where we identify that we outperform by 41% in grade 3, 33% in grade 4, 40% in grade 5, 26% in grade 6, and 31% in grade 7. Each year we do point out that in grade 8, the majority of our students are enrolled in geometry and not grade 8 math, and therefore the math 8 results are skewed and not representative of the whole group. On this slide, we hone in on our performance in our higher level math courses, our geometry, our algebra 1, and our algebra 2. On this slide, this is an aggregate helping us understand that the way these courses are broken out, and you will see that among CMS students, 22% were enrolled in Math 8. Moving into geometry, 70% were in geometry, and 9% and 9% were in Algebra 1. The majority of Algebra 1 students are at CHS, and all Algebra 2 students are at CHS, and clearly we have strong results in both Algebra 1 and in Algebra 2. And this slide depicts our overall performance as compared to the state. Once again, here is our subgroup overview. Any NAs indicate that there were less than 10 students and therefore results are not shared. As we shift into science, you will notice that there, rather than 5 performance levels like we had for ELA and math, we only have 4 performance levels for this content area. Level 1 is below proficient, level 2 is near proficiency, 3 is proficient, and level 4 is advanced proficiency. In science, the students are trying to register their level of proficiency with the knowledge specified by the New Jersey Student Learning Standards for Science. Students are required to demonstrate their ability to utilize the science and engineering practices to explain scientific phenomena appropriately, and the science component covers content in life, physical, and earth science. As we saw with ELA and math, this slide indicates each performance level and how our students performed as compared to the state. Here, once again, we are looking to see low numbers and percentages for levels 1 and 2, and then we do want to see higher percentages for levels 3 and 4, which are our advanced, proficient, and proficient. You can see that the trend continues on this for science. And here is where we see the side-by-side comparisons. Looking back at last year's data, the state stayed largely the same or dipped slightly, while we improved our 5th grade scores by roughly 3%, 8th grade remained the same, and 11th grade improved by approximately 8%. And here is our subgroup data for science. So once again, the ACCESS stands for Assessing Comprehension and Communication in English State to State for English Level Learners. The ACCESS is comprised of a series of language proficiency summative assessments given to all students who receive English as a second language services. There are 4 tests given. They are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And the proficiency levels range from a level 1, which is entering, going up to a level 6, which is reaching. And it is recommended that all students remain in an ESL program until they achieve an overall score of a 4.5 or higher. And in the this past spring of 2024, there were 41 students who were administered this test. And when you look at the performance levels, you will see that level 1, which is entering, had 7.3 of our students. Emerging had 17%. Developing a level 3 is 34%. Expanding level 4, 26.8. Bridging was 5, was 7.3. And reaching was 2.4. So the majority of our students are hovering in that developing and expanding range. Here we see the results of the GEPA, which is administered to all 11th grade students to meet the state graduation requirement. As you can see, in Chatham, 98% of our students were deemed graduation ready in ELA and nearly 91% in math. For any students who do not meet the cut score, there are pathways that can be pursued to meet the requirement. And here is the GEPA with our subgroup overview. The DLM, or Dynamic Learning Maps, is an alternate assessment for students with significant cognitive disabilities to show their performance level on essential elements of content standards. There are 4 achievement levels, which include emerging, approaching the target, at target, and advanced. This past spring, we had 14 students who participated in the administration of the math test. There were also 14 who participated in the administration of the ELA test, and there were 8 students who participated in the science. For this particular assessment, students are not compared to other students, but they are evaluated for their own progress. And this is how our students who participated in the DLM finished with their results. 79% were either emerging or approaching the target for ELA, 71 for math, 88 for science, and for at target or advanced, there were 21% for English language arts, 29% for mathematics, and 12% for science. So at this juncture, with the data in hand, we will continue to engage in a collaborative process to analyze data from the standardized assessments. Again, we use that as one snapshot. We make sure that differentiation is occurring in our classroom and that we're looking for any specific trends. We certainly, at this juncture in the year, are continuing to work with our administrative and strategic planning teams to prepare for any instructional adjustments that need to be made as a result of the upcoming reconfiguration. And we do provide professional development opportunities that reflect the identified needs of our students and incorporate student-teacher choice. So far this year, tomorrow we are engaging in our second day of our work with Naomi Rodriguez, who is providing 5 days of professional learning on the topic of multilanguage learners. Tomorrow we also have Dr. Ryan Baker, he's the director of the Penn Center for Learning Analytics. He'll be working with our high school teachers on the topic of AI. We have our kindergarten teachers who are working with a coach from Bank Street Graduate School of Education on the topic of incorporating play. Lauren Spooner has brought a clinician from the Juilliard School to teach all of our music and performance teachers the Alexander technique, which is based on mindset, breathing, posture to promote better performance. And across all content areas, we've had members of our faculty and staff who, to this point in the year, have already been out participating in conferences. And we, as a group, will continue to use benchmarking, formative assessments, and teacher observations to make sure that all instructional decisions are supporting the growth of our students. Our sports systems that we have in place, we have ELA strategy groups where we have small group instruction. This is occurring in the general education classroom with our reading interventionists. It's either a 1 or a 2 minute, 30-minute cycle for session for a 6-week cycle. We have basic skills instruction for ELA and math. Our certified staff, we have 2 behaviorists on staff, 3 mental health clinicians, 3 interventionists. And for specialized training for teaching reading, we have 13 Wilson certified teachers. And as we mentioned last year, we are hosting a cohort here for Orton-Gillingham. We have 3 school district teachers who are participating, and that has allowed us to have 20 of our own students who have participated in the practicum. This year, we were able to extend our brain camp to include rising 3rd graders and multilanguage learners this past summer. In kindergarten, we are layering in another level of support for development of phonemic awareness with the implementation of Haggerty. We've expanded Delta Math to include our middle school students. We utilize Lexia English to support our multilanguage learners. The new courses that we have running this year are based on instructional trends as well as student interest. We have 2 courses at the high school, Applied Health and Horticulture and Agricultural Sciences, which are being very well received by our students and the faculty. We have Explorations in Technology at the high school, as well as Explorations in Art. This current year, we have a 3rd grade cohort who is at Lafayette to help prepare for the reconfiguration. The cohort to date has gotten very positive feedback, and we view it as a positive vehicle to support 3rd grade teachers as they prepare to join the Lafayette staff next year. And we've expanded the residency with New Jersey Symphony to include our students at CMS. Last year, it was a successful endeavor with our students at Lafayette in the high school, and due to the generosity of CEF, we've expanded it to include our middle school students. And thank you.
Hi. How you doing? Okay, moving on to our business administrator's report. Mr. DeQuilla? I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Anybody have any questions about? Okay.
Can you hear me? So in the science test, and for 5th grader, we seem to be lagging behind the state in level 4. Is there any reason for that?
As we discussed last year with the science, my opinion is that the state is still trying to perfect that assessment, that I don't believe they have an accurate depiction of what 5th grade students should be doing at that point. I also believe that in regards to science, the shift from the next gen, the way we previously taught science now to the next generation science standards, I still believe that there's a learning curve for our teachers as we step away from more rote performances in science. That's very much what NJ Ask was, which was the predecessor for this assessment. Looking ahead, Yinglu, as we move into the 5th grade, it will avail more time for science for our 5th grade students, for 5th grade and 8th grade, which we're hoping might make a dent in achieving greater results.
Thank you.
I noticed, especially in math, but also in science and ELA, 8th grade didn't have the same trajectory as most of the other grades. And then why was there a 0 for level 5 in math for grade 8?
So that means for grade 8 that there were no students who achieved a level 5. As they indicated, it's a very small proportion of our 8th grade students who actually are enrolled in grade 8 as compared to other grade 8 math in the state. So percentage-wise, it's quite low. And I will say, Sally, we are looking closely at the 8th grade ELA because something is not sitting right with me there. We have gone back and looked at our scope, our sequence, our staffing was all in order. And following, the only thing we get from the state, it's like a scatogram. And for any particular question that we did not perform well on, it just drills down to the standard. So it doesn't give us much information. And the standards where we did not score well are standards that were covered. So in advance of this preparation, I was trying to do more research, and I haven't gotten the answers that I want, but I am looking at that rather closely.
Okay, and one follow-up question.
Sure.
Thank you for that. Also in grade 8 then, so is the most commonly, we have a lot of students taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade or geometry?
Geometry.
Geometry, okay.
Geometry.
Sorry, I had the same, or I guess a follow-up question is, in geometry, over 70% of the CMS students are taking geometry, but overall, we are lagging behind the state level. What's the reason there?
So we, as you know, we have a non-traditional sequence in teaching geometry to our students, and our students do not have a full year of algebra before taking geometry, but the test in geometry still incorporates many of the algebraic thinking, many of the algebraic components. And so the way that we have our sequence structured, there is content on the NJSLA that pertains to algebra that our students have not had at that point. So we are looking closely at this data and consulting with Mr. Yamamoto to look at our sequence and seeing back when we made the change, if we're getting the gains out of it that we were hoping.
Thank you.
I just had a follow-up in terms of introducing the integrity curriculum. Is that in addition to foundations or in?
Yeah. So it is in addition. It's a separate phonemic awareness program, and the way that it works, it fits nicely into our ELA block because they're 10-minute drills. So that, with foundations layered in our opinion, represents a very nice, solid program.
And it's only for kindergarten, or is it going to go?
It's only for kindergarten. So foundations, you'll remember, we have in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. This specific program is only in kindergarten.
Can I ask one more question? Sure. Sorry. Is there anything, Mary, that stood out to you as an action item that we didn't ask a question about that you're particularly proud of or concerned of?
In full honesty, the 8th grade ELA results are, they don't make sense to me, knowing that we didn't change anything instructionally on our end. So that is one area where now I'm just very curious about it. But I think our results year to year represent the work of our teachers and understanding what their students need. But we really do have the mindset that the work we do every day and what our teachers were just able to share with parents at conferences, like that tells the story of a student's growth and performance. We know some students have test anxiety. We know some kids are able to rush through assessments. So while our results are wonderful, we really do take great belief in the fact that the work we do on a daily basis when we started on August 26th to where we will finish in June represents the work of our teachers, but also the progress of our students.
Thanks, Mary, for that presentation. Very thorough. Appreciate all of your answers, too. Okay, moving on to the Business Administrator's Report. Mr. DeFilippo.
Sure. On the construction update, in following up on the security vestibule projects, the contractor, John O'Hara, is scheduled to install the interior doors at both Milton Avenue School in the nurse's office and nurse's area, and in the middle school at the end of the stairs of the second floor, and the two fire doors, sets of fire doors, the end of this week. The security doors are still being fabricated. They're scheduled, should be ready in a couple of weeks. They will be installed in the evenings in December or during the winter break. So hopefully everything should be completed by the end of the calendar year.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
that's all I have on that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. DeFilippo? Okay. Moving on to Student Liaison Report. Ahana?
So a couple of recent things. CHS had a fun Halloween-themed Spirit Week last week, so there were lots of funny costumes from teachers and students alike, and just a great way to show school spirit. The honors music recital was last Friday during the school day, and then a couple upcoming things. So fall sports will be ending their season soon if they haven't already for specific sports. It's been a great season for our fall athletes. And then the fall play, Peter and the Starcatcher, is coming up. So that's from Thursday the 21st to Saturday the 23rd. And then the last thing I have is student feedback. So as you can probably guess, some students have been unhappy with the intention to discontinue the overnight performing arts trip to Disney and the 8th grade DC trip. So as far as the performing arts trip goes, I'll say that I think, and this is kind of a common consensus, that canceling the trip could maybe have a negative, like unintended impact on student interest and continued involvement in the performing arts program at the high school. So maybe that could be reconsidered, or students could maybe help in exploring alternative options for those trips. But yeah, that is all from me.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, moving on to committee reports for personnel. Ms. Weber?
Sorry. We have not met. We are going to meet again next Wednesday on the 13th of November.
Thank you. Curriculum, Ms. Ross?
Same for curriculum. Meeting also will be next Wednesday, the 13th.
Perfect. Finance and facilities.
We met. So we talked, we had listened to a presentation from Brown and Brown, providing the district health benefit update. And then we also had the brief that the emergency reserve balance was $165,000. Now we've all used up and it's zero right now. And then we had a construction update that Peter just gave. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. And policy and planning, Mr. Ryan?
Yep. Policy met on October 30th. We discussed policy 5118, which you'll see on the agenda tonight as a first reading, adding some language to that surrounding collection of tuition and potential temporary resident not opportunities, but temporary resident situations where a student may be a resident whose family moves for reconstruction purposes, et cetera. So we needed to address those issues in the policy. We did talk about the overnight field trips. Dr. LaSousa could comment on that if anyone has questions about that. We did have some student tuition, out of district student tuition inquiry, which I believe we denied that one for now. We talked about the calendar. You'll see on the agenda tonight that December 20th is a half day, which would be a change. We had a request from the art program for permission to paint a mural outside one of our buildings at the high school, one of our wings at the high school, which we granted. We also discussed that there is a Harding Recreation meeting this Wednesday, the 6th at 7 p.m. in the Media Center in the high school. I believe some members of the Harding Board or perhaps the superintendent might be attending that meeting with the Joint Recreation Committee. Is that correct, Dr. LaSousa?
Yes, that's a closed meeting just to discuss some of the questions that have come up in
Yes.
Harding.
Whoops.
It's okay. Just
That's
an
a closed
informational,
meeting.
it's an informational meeting for all parties involved.
That's a closed meeting. Sorry
Yes.
about that. Also, we did discuss a request from the from the Rec Basketball Club to reconsider some fees that they are assessed for using the gyms on the weekends, and we think we have an equitable solution for that we discussed. So, that's it.
Perfect. Okay, moving on to liaison reports. Anybody have anything to report? No? Okay, perfect. Okay, I'd like to motion that we pass the minutes from the last meeting.
Only
October 14th.
Ms. Kenny has to abstain.
Okay. Somebody want a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Since I was late.
Meeting minutes from October 14th, regular and executive session. Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Ms. Allen.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Abstain?
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Dr. Zhang.
Yes.
And Ms. Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Agenda item passed 601.
Perfect. Okay, this is our first opportunity for public commentary.
I'd like to start this evening's public commentary. I know you're anxious, got to wait. Hopefully it shouldn't be very long. On the agenda tonight, items B11 and B12 are resolutions to approve the bond refunding for the district. What that means in layman's terms is the financial advisor has advised the district that it appears the interest rates may be favorable, that our outstanding bonds can be refinanced, as the technical term refunded, to lower the interest payments and cost that the taxpayers will endure to pay the debt that they approved on when they approved the referendums in the past. Due to procedures, we need to have a public commentary session and a hearing. My announcing this is the hearing on it, and we are now open to receive any comments from the public regarding the refunding. I take that as everyone thinks it's a good idea, so thank you. The public hearing on the bond audience is now closed.
Okay, moving on to the public commentary. Hearing of the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. And when you do get up, if you could just sign in and state your name, that would be great.
Good evening. My name is Madison Feeman, and I'm a freshman in the CHS choir. Alongside other performing arts students and parents of kids involved in the arts here tonight, I'm speaking about the cancellation of our Disney trip, a decision that is deeply upsetting for all of us. Our choir program has already faced numerous challenges, especially my grade. From the setbacks of COVID-19 to the sudden departure of our teacher just before our concert, it's been a struggle to keep our program strong. Now, with the loss of this Disney trip, we're facing yet another hit. We understand that overnight trips are challenging to organize, but this trip is essential, not just for our program, but for every student who participates. It's also frustrating to see the Disney trip treated on the same level as the Washington, D.C. trip. The D.C. trip happens every year and involves an entire grade, while the Disney trip is once every 4 years and directly impacts the future of our performing arts program. For students like me who are deeply involved in the arts, trips like this matter. When we're auditioning for prestigious programs like the Paper Mill Conservatory, or even for college, they look for experiences like performing at Disney. This trip helps students stand out and in some cases can be crucial for their success in pursuing a performing arts career. Our performing arts programs are small, and the few opportunities we do have are vital. These experiences aren't just about performing. They provide essential training and exposure, helping students gain the skills and confidence they need to pursue their dreams, whether that be on Broadway, somewhere in the arts, or wherever their passions take them. I'd also like to point out that Disney provides valuable training to each of the arts programs at CHS. I was fortunate enough last year to experience the training through dance that Disney offers. There is nothing it can be compared to, not training in New York City or anything else. It is a specialized experience for each arts programs that you go with. And I'm curious, how do we plan to replace this critical training opportunity? We aren't here to work against you. We want to work with you to ensure that our performing arts programs remain strong and impactful. This Disney trip is more than just a fun experience. It's a lifeline for our program and the students within it. Please help us keep these opportunities alive for current and future students. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Genevieve Keneally. I'm a freshman at Chatham High School. I'm also an active choir member and currently serve as the vice president of the concert choir and on our choir council. At the last Board of Education meeting, it was announced that starting next year, there will be no more overnight field trips in this district, including the Performing Arts Disney trip, which takes place every 4 years. To address the first reason given for this decision, while nursing staff can be costly and hard to find, this community has shown a strong willingness to fundraise and explore other methods of putting on this trip. These efforts will not only help cover the cost of nursing staff, but also the cost of subsidies for teachers who are away chaperoning. Secondly, it was suggested that the Disney trip is too disruptive. However, teachers have discussed alternatives like multiple consecutive day trips. I believe that getting on and off buses for full-day trips, returning home each night, and repeating the process disrupts both students and teachers far more. Another factor that disrupts the learning environment is when students frequently leave class for sports, packing up loudly and drawing attention. It's also challenging when I end up doing group projects alone because my partner has left class, yet this issue remains unaddressed. Thank you for your time, and I hope you'll consider bringing back the Disney trip, a true beacon of joy for us performing arts students.
Hello, my name is Nolina Nadanova, and I am a freshman in the CHS choir. I'm here to speak about the recent cancellation of our Disney trip, a decision that has left us all feeling extremely disappointed and discouraged. For us in the choir, this trip was more than just a performance opportunity. After everything our grade has been through, especially due to COVID-19, building a strong community is something we desperately need. For years, we were separated and isolated, missing out on the typical school experiences that helped create lasting bonds and friendships. This trip to Disney represented a chance to build those connections and that we missed out on, a chance to come together as a choir, as a team, and as a family. The sense of community is so essential in the arts. Working together, performing together, and supporting one another are what make our program strong and continue to grow. This Disney trip would have given us the chance to grow closer, learn to trust each other on and off the stage, and create shared memories. Without it, we're missing a vital opportunity to form the friendships and connections that help our choir thrive. An example of the bonds that are formed during overnight trips is the friendships my father has developed through shared experiences. When I ask questions or start to discuss school trips that he has been on in the past, he often mentions that the friends he spends time with on these trips have created lifelong connections for him. Even now, he maintains contact with these close companions despite being halfway around the world. These overnight trips to new locations are essential for creating lifelong bonds. I urge you to consider the importance of this trip, not only for our choir's artistic growth, but for the growth of our community as well. This experience would have helped us to make up for lost time, to build a supportive family within the arts, and to establish a foundation of teamwork and trust that will carry our program forward. Logistical and staffing problems should not take away the experiences of high school students as these. Thank you for your time and consideration. We're hopeful that together we can find a way to keep opportunities like this Disney trip alive for students who depend on them, not only for a performance experience, but to create a strong, supportive community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kate Schell, and I'm a freshman in the CHS Band and Marching Band. I want to talk about the impact of canceling our Disney trip. We understand that organizing a large trip with flights can be complicated, but the real issue here is about losing the overnight experience altogether, which is critical to our band and arts community. Personally, I have been looking forward to this trip since a very young age. My parents went on this very same trip as high schoolers and have photo albums flooded with memories, laughing, smiling, performing, and building an amazing community with their high school band. I and a lot of my grade have looked up on this trip all of our lives, hearing stories from family members, watching my neighbors return home after their trips, and hearing our teachers tell us that once we were in high school, we would have a chance at that too. An overnight experience was something we strived for, more than just riding the roller coasters or playing our instruments, something where we could connect with our peers and form memories just like we had been told about all our lives. Furthermore, the overnight trip allows for a well-rounded education, as us students can learn to be more independent and adapt to real-life situations, allowing for the transition to high school, to college, to the real world smoother. This prepares us for real-world scenarios. We can build a greater connection with peers and teachers and allow for lifelong memories to take shape and form. Additionally, our grade specifically has already taken many losses, such as the Philadelphia trip, Ellis Island trip, Bronx Zoo trip, and many others, especially due to COVID-19. These opportunities have been following us our whole lives and continue to harm our growth, independence, sense of community, and experiences. Losing the opportunities isn't just a disappointment, it's a setback in building the community we're all striving for. Overnight trips gives us the chance to grow together, to trust each other, and to build those relationships that make our performances so much stronger. Please consider how we might still be able to preserve this overnight tradition many of us have been waiting for. The trip would not only support our growth as performers, but would also allow us to build a foundation of community that strengthens our band and gives us the memories and motivation we need to keep going in the arts program. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Chatham Board of Education. My name is Cameron Francini, and I am a senior and current member of the Chatham High School Chamber Choir. I would like to implore you guys to reconsider or maybe seek alternatives to the cancellation of overnight trips, especially the Disney trip. So my grade was the grade that did not get a DC trip because of COVID. So we were thrilled when we got to high school and we were able to go to Disney, and we had this, it was an amazing experience that I still reflect upon fondly. It was a great opportunity for us to connect with our peers, and it was just an amazing experience overall. As I get ready to go to college, I have been thinking about how that trip was a great experience for me learning how, or not necessarily learning, but practicing being away in a different state from my family and sharing a room with other people, right? And so I think it definitely has its value that would be lost should that overnight trips be canceled. Additionally, as was mentioned before, this is something that like from as early as middle school, but even maybe before that, like we were told, oh yeah, you get to go to Disney if you stay in the music program, and that's a big thing that a lot of people look forward to, coming from the younger grades, and that's a big motivating factor for people to stay in music besides music itself, obviously. So if overnight trips were to be canceled, then you lose that factor, and it is at the detriment of the music program. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Pruda, and I'm a freshman in the CHS choir. I'm here to speak about the impact of the Disney trip cancellation and what this decision means for our performing arts program. I want to share why this trip is about more than just travel. It's a unique learning experience that cannot be replicated in the classroom. For us in the arts, trips like Disney experience are educational in ways that extend far beyond what we can gain through rehearsals alone. Performing in professional environment, learning from industry experts, and experiencing the behind-the-scenes work of a place like Disney gives us insight into the field we're passionate about. We can read about these things and study them, but nothing compares to seeing and experiencing it firsthand. It's like a science student visiting a research lab or a history class traveling to historic sites. These experiences inspire us, educate us, and deepen our commitment to our craft. I also want to emphasize that trips like this create a spark in students. It's not easy to stay committed to a performing arts program, especially as we face academic pressures and other extracurriculars. But the immersive experiences like this can be a powerful reminder of why we love the arts. They can be the difference between students staying involved in choir throughout high school or leaving because they don't see a future in it. It's an investment not just in our education, but in our motivation and dedication. This Disney trip was a promise that our hard work and commitment would lead to something extraordinary. We don't take that for granted. We practice, we prepare, and we dedicate ourselves to being the best we can be because we believe in the power of these experiences. Taking this trip away from us doesn't just cancel a performance, it takes away the accumulation of months, even years of effort and dedication. We inspire younger students, we strengthen our program, and we elevate the arts at CHS for everyone. When we're given opportunities to grow and learn, it enriches not just our own lives, but the lives of everyone who sees and supports our performances. Please, consider the impact of this decision on students who are dedicated to making the arts a significant part of their high school experience. We're asking you to help us keep that dream alive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Francini, and I'm here tonight as a parent of a senior and a freshman. I have been watching both of them as they've gone through COVID-19 and how it has affected them socially and how it has affected their educational opportunities. I have watched my daughter go from the child who the third grade teacher told me was okay being okay to struggling through COVID, and now getting to high school and being part of the high school marching band, where she played 4 drums and had never played the drums before. These programs are really important to kids like mine, As a mental health professional, I know how important the opportunity for these kids to be independent and away from their families absolutely change their own self-confidence in their abilities. And I also would like to say that my parents met on their DC trip in 8th grade, and over 50 years later are still married. So, lots of great things come from these trips. I could say a lot more, but they've said most of it. So I second a lot of the things that they say about the importance of these things, and I wanted to come tonight to support my daughter and my son in that.
All right, I'll make this quick because everybody has said most of it already. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous, but anyway. So I am going to talk about something that hasn't really been talked about too much, which is the what I think would be the destruction of the performing arts program. When the Disney trip was canceled, or talk of it was being circulated about it being canceled, I heard a majority of the wind ensemble wanting to quit. And our band is as small as it is, right? And from fourth grade has like 100 plus people, and that's what I started with, 100 plus people. But now it's gotten down to maybe 20, maybe a little bit more than 20. It's gone down a lot. People are quitting, even with the incentive of the Disney trip. Now, without that incentive of the Disney trip, people will quit, and people will not want to continue playing their instrument. It serves as an incentive. It serves as a goal to have, to strive to, and without that, kids aren't mature enough to see how important playing an instrument is, and they really need that incentive to go and something like the Disney trip, to have fun with their friends, to make memories. Without that, the music program, I don't think it will survive. And that's really sad to see. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Frank Davis. I'm a Harding Township resident, and I come here today to speak for the majority of Harding Township residents, parents, and students about the current send-receive topic that we have going on between the two towns, frankly, Madison as well, so 3 towns. To be easily said, the Harding residents, parents, and students don't want to come to Chatham. Now, Chatham is a fantastic school district. I have nothing bad to say about Chatham. I grew up in Madison my entire life, and so has many generations of my family. But with that tradition and what we have to lose with that tradition, we want to stick with Madison. Hundreds of signatures on a petition, a Facebook group that has been started, a lawn sign campaign, speeches that have been done at every board, including this one now with myself, etc., have been said about how Harding Township residents, students, and parents want to stick with Madison High School. Now, the board, like yourself, makes decisions based upon us voting you in as residents. And, I implore you on all these actions that you guys have to do, and I understand where you're coming from and how you deliver your message based on being a business decision. I get it. I'm a businessman myself, and when I make business dealings against my competitors, and I try to get people on my side, I say certain things to win my cause. But here I am today, not as a businessman, I'm talking to you as a parent. And I believe that most of you are parents as well. Maybe you have some students that are in Chatham, maybe you have some students that are going to private school currently, maybe some students that will go to private school in high school. Regardless of that, in the business dealings that we do in our
business life, kids are not held as pawns. And in this dealing, if you move forward with this, you're using the Harding students as pawns. Our board is not listening to us. So I'm coming here today with open arms saying, parent to parent, the parents of Harding do not want to send their kids to Chatham High School. There's so many other reasons for this that I don't have time for in the allotted time, and I don't want to take away from what these children said, because frankly, after what they just said about stuff that's happening with them at their school, I didn't want to steal their time, but I came here tonight to tell you that you need to kill this deal. On your end, you need to kill this deal because our Harding board that is supposed to represent us is not listening to us. We're telling them, again, from all the stuff that we've been doing, we don't want to go to Chatham High School, and it appears that they're moving forward with it. So if you want to come see for yourself, our next Harding board meeting is on Tuesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. at our school in Harding. You'll hear all of us speak. Since August, we've been speaking, and the board is giving us a chance to speak, but frankly, we're still in the dark for what their motive is, and, you know, being the majority of Harding not wanting this move, and in a logical sense, it just doesn't make sense to us why they would even be considering it. So join the Facebook group. It's open to the public. If you want to see what we're talking about, the majority of Harding residents, parents, and students, come to the meetings, drive around Harding, see the lawn sign campaigns, go to any Harding, Madison recreational event, and you'll see the reason why we want to stay in Madison. Thank you.
Hey, Dan Lynn. My son, Noah Nathan, one's a sophomore, the other one's a freshman. I grew up in Livingston. I was part of the music program there. It was a really strong music program. And so it was a little disappointing when I attend my son's one of the marching band competitions. And we pull up with our bus, 16 kids come out. Livingston pulls up, 4 buses. 3 of them were performers. 1 bus was just equipment. So, you know, my son mentioned that that the Disney program, taking away the Disney program potentially may take away attendance. And it may be true, and I certainly agree that signing up for performing arts or playing an instrument is not any reason to do that for a Disney program or an overnight trip, But I think taking the program away may give kids a reason not to do the performing arts. We have great assessment scores. We have fantastic lacrosse team. The baseball team is awesome. Champions in fencing. Dr. Lusuza was very supportive of the sailing team. And now we have a sailing team. So we have great private school sports. But we lack music. I mean, how many of you play music during your meals or weekend mornings, right, in your homes? We have kids walking around with earpods listening to music, albeit sometimes during class, right? But it's a part of our soul. So if the Disney program goes away and attendance falls, then I challenge the board to think of a creative way to increase participation in the performing arts. I think it's an embarrassment that that a school district with stellar assessment scores and fantastic athletic teams has 16 or 18 children come off a bus for their marching band. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Lakin. I am also the parent of 2 children who are involved with the performing arts, specifically band and marching band, symphonic band, wind ensemble. I'm here with my child this evening, and I wasn't planning to actually speak, and for those of you on the stage who know me, you know I am also an education administrator, and making hard decisions stinks. And I understand that everybody has to make those decisions for financial reasons, for liability reasons. But honestly, as I'm sitting here listening to these students, and I don't know which one of you guys it was, but I thought one of the points really stuck out, and I just wanted to come up here to emphasize that, which is I love everything about this district, but the thing that you cannot argue against in this district is the focus on athletics. And to tell me that we can't find a nurse or that we don't have enough ability to handle liability for our performing arts students who care very deeply about this trip and have spoken to the strengths and the meaning that it has for them, when you have students playing football and lacrosse and soccer and at risk for concussions and all of those kinds of things, the busing, the expense, the management that the district is spending on those students, and to say that you can't simultaneously step up for something that is super important to the performing arts students. And the students have spoken so eloquently and so professionally, and we should all be proud of them coming here tonight to do that. It actually sends a really important message. And just like my colleague speaking about the 16-ish kids who are coming off of the marching band, it's true. And for those of you who haven't been to a performance, and those of you who haven't seen how hard those kids work in those moments, when they have dealt with the travails of the pandemic and teacher switches and everything else, would benefit really greatly from seeing that and seeing their dedication in the same way that the athletics appreciation is in the district. So I would also encourage you to please reconsider. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close this portion of the public commentary section. I do want to say just really quickly to all the students that spoke, you guys, I give you major props for coming out here. I know it's not easy to talk in public, and you all were very well spoken, and I really do appreciate you coming and commend you for that. As far as any comments, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. LaSousa.
Thank you, Ms. Ciccarelli, and I'll begin by echoing what you just said. Students did a fabulous job. I knew Mr. Bryson was a superstar choral teacher. I didn't know he taught public speaking all day long as well. And Mr. Bryson is just one of many magnificent teachers we have in the Performing Arts Department, and we've been very proud to recruit some of those folks, bring them on, and grow our program, which is exactly what we've been doing. Beginning at Lafayette in particular with a performance that didn't used to exist in the theater arts, and we're planning on expanding again next year at the middle school when we make the reconfiguration. So I'll start just by trying to provide some context and say I agree with the students about how valuable the Disney trip has been and what a rewarding experience it is to be on the trip. I've been on the trip. I was there in 2005 as the high school administrator in charge, or one of the high school administrators in charge. We had about 400 kids with us, if I remember correctly, and it was a terrific experience, a memorable one for me. I thought we ran the trip one more time in 2009, but in speaking with Ms. Gironda over the past couple of weeks, we don't think that that was the case. We discontinued the trip we believe right after 2005. I thought it was after 2009. And we didn't run the trip for quite a while until 2017 when we revived it. The reason we canceled originally, and of course I wasn't the superintendent at the time, I was high school principal, was that the logistics of bringing 300 or 400 students on 6 or 8 airplanes down to Florida were formidable and hard to execute fully. And of course, we had extenuating circumstances with students, and it was just a difficult, giant undertaking. So at the time anyway, the trip was discontinued. And then we explored other special experiences for students. We did a Virginia Beach trip, I think more than once. We went to Hershey, Gettysburg. We've done New York City trips. So we've tried to find experiences that are valuable and worthwhile to students. In 2017, we revived the trip. We had different personnel, in the school district by that point. I was the superintendent. I remembered all the challenges back when I was on the trip and why we made the determination to discontinue it. But as superintendent, I supported bringing back the trip. COVID hit us, and that was a problem. But I met with Mr. Bryson and Mr. Keller and other teachers and supported doing the trip as soon as we could once we were emerging from COVID, because I'm a supporter of the arts and I want our students to have the best possible experience. But the truth is that the logistics are extremely daunting for the staff that we have. And I'm the person that gets the call when the flights are canceled at 2 o'clock in the morning and there are going to be 50 kids with an administrator stuck in an airport. I'm the person who gets the call when we've got a student who has to go to the emergency room for a medical issue. I'm the person who gets the call multiple times when a student is having an anxiety episode and their parent has to either drive to Washington or get on a plane to Florida to retrieve them. And I'm the one who deals with the very real issues we have with providing sufficient nursing coverage for the students who are on the trip. And with both of these trips, DC and Disney, we run somewhere in the neighborhood of 25% of students who require medication on a daily basis. And those medications range from allergy and ADHD and antidepressants and anxiety meds to other conditions that require much more serious medication. So the decision isn't made lightly about taking a hard look at what we're doing. We've been talking about this for a number of years internally. Almost every time we run the DC trip, for example, I have to have a conversation with our administrative team because we're having such a difficult time believing we can even go, even in the days running up to the trip, because of a variety of issues. And with DC, the reality is we've only run that trip twice in the last 15 or 20 years. The idea of the incentive and the falling numbers, we have bent over backwards to try to prop up the marching band, just as an example, since that's come up. Student interest has waned. Even as we've brought the trip back, the numbers for marching band have continued to decline, even with the pains we've taken to run the Disney trip twice in the past 6 or 7 years. So that's something that is unfortunate, and we are doing everything we can to try to figure out how to increase the numbers. We even have 8th grade students involved in the marching band this year. But student interest is student interest, and we can't always force or drum up student interest just on our own or with incentives like a trip once every 4 years. We need to build programs from the beginning and have the support and hopefully have the numbers that thrive through the high school. I can say without blinking that I've been as big a supporter of the arts as has this Board of Education, as athletics. We invest in the arts. We're sitting in an auditorium because we made the arts the first priority of a referendum that first failed and then passed back in 2015 and 2016. And I am absolutely committed to exploring with student and parent input and with our staff experiences that are exciting and that prove to be wonderful for our students and make them want to be part of a program and continue in the arts for as long as they can, even beyond, of course, Chatham High School. So My commitment to that, though, doesn't take away the fact that we have really significant challenges with large-scale overnight trips. And I haven't spoken that much about Washington, D.C., but the cost of these trips and the needs of our students that evolve over time and the level of support that we have to feel comfortable providing all make it really, really challenging to run these trips. And that's the reason why I'm not going to recommend another one after this year once we move forward. I will recommend exploration of as many rewarding and rich experiences and opportunities as Ahana requested at the beginning of this meeting, so that students can feel good about what they're doing and be involved and be connected and hopefully learn and grow from whatever learning opportunities they have beyond the confines of Chatham. And I'm confident that our staff, because they are absolute superstars, will help lead that charge and figure out how we can do things that are really both wonderful, but also, from a practical point of view, ones that are sustainable for us.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any further comments or questions or?
Just simply that, as a board, I've been doing this for 14 years, and performing arts has always been at the top of our list to continue to support and grow, and we've expanded it in many, many ways. So it's not that we don't think you guys do a phenomenal job. We absolutely do. You guys crush it every time. Really crush it. It's just unfortunate that there's just too many obstacles. It's just insurmountable and not sustainable. But you did hear Dr. LaSousa just say he's eager to look for alternatives, so hopefully we can, encourage people to come. It might be a better trip. He went to Gettysburg University, so don't let him push Gettysburg too hard, because, but, so I just don't want you to think that the board doesn't care. We absolutely care. We struggled with this. We've been talking about this for years and years and years, and we've just gotten to the point where we just can't continue. But at least for the last 10 years, we've been talking about these obstacles just growing, and we just hit a breaking point. But I do appreciate you guys all coming out and speaking. That you guys, again, rock it. Thank you.
I do want to just add something about the Washington, D.C. trip to provide a little context to that one, too. The Washington, D.C. trip is not a long-standing tradition in the district. In fact, the veteran board members here didn't have children go to Washington, D.C. because we didn't have that trip. What we did have when I became superintendent was a trip, a 7th grade trip to Frost Valley. And then we had in 8th grade a trip to, a field trip and experience to Broadway with a dance. And we felt that the Frost Valley trip had other logistical issues, including parents that were chaperoning and in the same cabins as students, and we had issues with adult supervision on that trip. But it also had outgrown its alignment with our curriculum and the state standards, and we just thought it was out of place. It was time to discontinue the Frost Valley trip. And we had people who spoke up and were frustrated and annoyed with us for doing that. So we swapped out Frost Valley. We put in the 8th grade DC trip because 8th grade, the social studies curriculum had a lot of civics in it. We were in the process of creating the Holocaust and Genocide Awareness course at the middle school, so we thought we could try to get into the Holocaust Museum, DC. And we made that change, and within probably 3, 4, 5 years, we probably made that change my 2nd year as superintendent, I'm guessing. We were also running into the same problems, particularly around nursing. And it's not really a money thing. It's actually finding human beings who are willing to serve as a nurse on those trips. We had created a special stipend to try to get our own people to go along, which we were sometimes successful with, sometimes not. You have to understand that in addition to administering medication to a quarter of the kids on the trip, we have nighttime issues frequently, and so the nurses end up being up all night. And that's not even to say anything of the other, unusual circumstances we might have with a student who's sick and vomiting or has to go to the emergency room or whatever. So the issue is the availability of nursing overall. We've been using agencies the last couple of years, but similar to Disney, every year we do the DC trip, I end up debriefing with the middle school administration, whether it was the prior one or the current one, about the ups, the downs, the challenges we've had, and every year we kind of say, this might be the last time we can do this. And that's not because we don't believe it's a fun experience and a good experience for kids. It's because of all of the other logistical challenges that we have to run it. And so just like with Disney, with DC, we would be looking for alternatives, probably day experiences from Chatham. And yes, that can be disruptive as well, but not as disruptive as having so many staff and students out. And we'd want it to be much more affordable for families than the current DC trip is, because it has become just too unwieldy, we believe.
Okay, thank you, Dr. LaSousa, for that. Okay, now moving on to our regular agenda. Personnel, Ms. Weber?
Yes, thank you, Ann. I'd like to move action items A1 through A16 on the regular agenda, and that's it.
I'll second it.
Thanks, you guys.
Agenda items A1 through A16. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 7-0.
Okay, perfect. For finance and facilities,
I would like to move item B1 through B12.
Second.
Agenda items B1 through B12. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Ciccarelli?
yes.
Agenda items pass 7-0.
Okay, perfect. For curriculum, Ms. Ross?
Yep, I'd like to move action items C1 to C3.
Second.
Agenda items C1 and C1 to C3. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Okay, perfect. And for policy, Mr. Ryan?
Yes, I'd like to move agenda items D1 and D2.
I second it.
Agenda items D1 and D2. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 7-0.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Anybody have any other board business they want to discuss?
Yeah, I have one item. It has to do with the calendar. Thanks, Ann.
Sure.
Mike, I'm sure there's like 4,000 parents watching our meeting, but just in case there's a couple that missed it, how do we communicate the calendar change? Because that's kind of a big deal. It's, the half day in December that if folks need to get away a little bit early, this affords them some opportunity.
I sent it out to all parents today, actually.
Okay.
With a reminder that election.
Before we voted on it?
I did. I broke a
Well, that was
cardinal. I
presumptuous
broke
of
a
you.
cardinal rule because I wanted to send a reminder about election day, schools being closed. So I just put a reminder and a note that we were going to convert the.
With a little footnote that said pending board approval?
I might have forgotten that. It didn't fit in the text. I only had so many characters.
Very good. Thank you. Perfect. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of it.
Good call. Okay, perfect. We now have our second opportunity for public commentary if there is anybody who has anything else they'd like to share.
Bill's quiet.
Is that Mr. Heath? Nothing, Mr. Heath?
Nothing on JC's Christmas tree sales? There we go. That's
Sorry, did we wake you up?
There we go.
Good evening, Bill Heap. No comment on board business. I don't want to get in the middle of the Disney trip. But I will put on my JC hat and remind everybody that our tree sale is gearing up. And the poets in our literary department have come up with a slogan that neatly captures the spirit of the season. Try this one on for size. For holiday glee, come out and buy your JC Christmas tree. I know it's not exactly Yeats or Tennyson, but it gets the job done. This is very much a community affair. We have Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Key Club members, adults, and all the net proceeds go back into Chatham. We are very proud of our low expense ratio. So the money gets to where it needs to go, including high school scholarships, lots of youth programs we support. So we would appreciate it if you come out and buy your tree, and I know we can count on very generous Chathamites to do that. So thanks.
Okay, perfect. That being said, I'm going to close the second session of the public commentary. We do not have an executive session, correct?
We do not.
Okay, great. So I will adjourn this meeting then. Thank you so much to everyone. Everyone get home safe. Thank you for coming.